Welcome back. We are on day 3 of our yarn painting projects, and we had 3 videos to check out about different things: contour lines, continuous lines, landscape paint dippings, all kinds of cool stuff. And now it's time to get to what we've got to do to practice that. So, the supplies that we want to take out, we're going to need 2 pieces of white drawing paper. One of the 2, if you would like to. Remember how we already did the one landscape on day 1 with the continuous line marker. So if you want to get out the other half of that piece of paper, you can use that for the first thing we're going to be doing, or a full sheet of paper is fine too. This is just from that stack of papers that you got. So 2 sheets of paper, or 1.5 if you're going to use the other half from day 1. Either way works. And then we'll also need a pencil. So go ahead and get out those things if you haven't already. So the very first thing that we're going to be practicing today is a continuous line drawing using only pencil. So I know that we already did this with marker, kind of pretending that that marker was our yarn and going back and forth and back and forth. And if we had to pick it up, that we put it back in the same spot. So it looked like a continuous line even if we did have to break it for any reason, okay? So as you're thinking about like what to draw for this continuous line drawing, I guess I want you to think about, is there something that you tend to draw over and over again? Like, for example, I can tell you that when I was in middle school, I used to love drawing these cute little frogs, like these little bubble frogs, and they had these big old cheeks and dots all over them. They were super cute, and I would draw those all the time. So if you have something like that for yourself, where you kind of draw this thing over and over again, maybe that's going to be a good choice for this continuous line drawing, because obviously continuous line is a little different, right? We're not leaving spaces between different sections. We're not picking up our pencil, or if we do have to pick up our pencil, we're putting it back down in the same spot to create that look of it's just one line creating this whole image. So that's just one challenge. Otherwise, really it can be anything. It doesn't have to be something you've even drawn before. In fact, so one thing I always like to remind my students of, I feel like a lot of times we, in our other classes, we're told like not to look at stuff because that's cheating. I think it's almost the opposite in art, because getting inspired by our surroundings, by what we see in the world, is truly a big part of what makes art what it is. And another thing I always like to share with my students too, if I don't look at something, if I just like let's say, for example, in this continuous line drawing, I'm going to do a horse. I know many of us love horses, so I'm going to do a horse for mine. If I were to draw a picture of a horse without looking at either a photograph of a horse, or maybe a little horse figurine, or a drawing of a horse, if I were to just draw it from my memory, I am not joking when I say it would look, you'd be able to tell it's a horse, but it's going to look like an elementary student drew it. And I am not saying that to in any way belittle myself or anything like that. It's just literally that my brain, like most of ours, they don't capture the amount of detail that an image does. Our memories don't capture that amount of detail. And so when we try to draw by memory, if our memory doesn't capture that amount of detail, well, we're not going to probably translate that then to paper. Therefore, looking at a photograph of a horse, or looking at a little horse figurine, or looking at a drawing of a horse, or something like that, but looking at something as inspiration is automatically going to bring up our level of our drawing simply by using that other thing as inspiration. Once again, you don't have to do a horse. That's just what I'm doing for my example. But I want to give you guys that permission to go on Google, or to look through books, or wherever you're looking for an inspirational picture before you get started on this. I would not do this just from like my memory. Unless, once again, if it's that thing that you've drawn like 300 times and you know exactly how to draw it without having to look at anything, that's a little bit different story. But what you can do here is go to the Google, just type in continuous line drawing. Some of these are even videos too, so you can check that out. You can go to just images. This is the one that I'm going to be looking at here, just for your reference. If you're like, wait, we saw that. Yes, you did. That's what I'm using as my reference. So yeah, feel free to look at these and use these as inspiration. Some of them are just images, some of them are videos. So anyway, I just want to let you know that's an option. Okay, that being said, I'm using a half sheet of paper for this one. Once again, you could use a whole sheet of paper if you want to. I just have this left over from day one, so why not? Why not? Okay, just getting out a regular old pencil. Doesn't have to be one of our fancy drawing ones. Could be, but it doesn't have to be. And then as a reminder, the goal of a continuous line drawing is to mimic almost as if it was a piece of string, and it's just one continuous line. You don't pick your pencil up. If you do pick your pencil up, it's not like it's the end of the world or anything. You just put it back down where you left off, so it looks like a continuous line. I've never done this one before, so let's see what happens. So I'm going to kind of come on up, and I'm going to come down. This is going to be the mane here of my horse. This would be one that'd be kind of fun to do in faster speed, wouldn't it? Okay, so there's the mane, and then it kind of comes back down, gives a little wisp of the mane here, comes back up. Notice my pencil has not yet left the paper. Okay, and then it kind of dips this way for an ear. Okay, and then it comes in here. Of course, you guys are probably making something else, or maybe right now you're just watching and you're going to use your out of class time to do this work. That works as well. Now, just for an example, okay, so the eye kind of comes back here and then loops back. Didn't pick up my pencil, right? For an example, let's just say I'm right about here and something happens. Like I have to go to my next class, or I get called for lunch, or whatever, whatever the case may be. But I need to leave right now, and but my drawing isn't done. It is okay. It is okay to pick up that pencil. Just when you come back, put it back in the same spot. Okay, I promise. It's still going to look like a continuous line, and nobody has to know. Shh. They don't have to know. Okay, so anyway, I would continue on with this, and I'm just kind of looking at that image. Believe me, if I were to do this from memory, it would look nowhere near this good. I love horses, but I very rarely actually draw them. I don't draw them too often. Anyway, this is part one coming up here of our get-to-dos for today. Continuous line drawing. And you can kind of see, if you're looking, once again, that's the horse that I'm looking at. Here's what it's looking like so far. And when I come back to it, guess what? I'm just going to put my pencil here, continue on. I'm going to set this off to the side for the moment, though, because we've got more information coming our way. So let's get back to it. Switch our screen once again. Okay, so that is the continuous line drawing portion of it. And then the next thing that we're going to be doing is some practice with landscapes, since that's kind of our focus here. So that other piece of paper, that full sheet of paper that we have, we're going to fold it in half and then fold it in half again. So essentially we're dividing our paper into 4. Doesn't matter which way you fold first, just fold it in half and fold it in half again. From there, what we're going to do is make 4 different landscape ideas. So you can see over on the right hand side, each section is a different landscape idea. foreground, middle ground, background included on each of those. And then once again, I'm just gonna throw this out here. If you're like, well, you know, those were nice, but maybe I want to challenge myself to make it a little bit more intricate. Don't go too intricate. Like, I don't want to be seeing like shading and all these like amazing things that I know so many of you can and do. You do draw that way frequently. But remember, this will be eventually turned into a yarn painting. And so, although we can get it more detailed than, say, this, we don't want it to be so detailed that when it comes to creating it in yarn, that it's going to take us like 30 hours to do. You know, so kind of find that balance for yourself between challenging enough but not over the top, especially if yarn painting is something that's new to you. So once again, though, if you want to go ahead and look up inspiration, yarn painting landscape, and check out what the Google has to offer. Oh, look at this one's kind of cute. It's got some Starry Night vibes. I like that. Okay, well anyway, so what I'm going to do to start, fold my paper in half, fold it in half again, as if I was making like a little card or a little book or something. That will divide my paper into 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'm going to, in each section, start to plan out. And now, just as a heads up, when you're planning these out today, like, my goal would be that one of these 4 is kind of what you're thinking you might use for your actual yarn painting. So we're not just drawing them for like general practice. We are drawing them for like a potential, like, this is what my actual yarn painting might look like. So keep that in mind. I do really love this Starry Night one, so I'm gonna mimic that a little bit. Maybe change it a bit. Give it some of those mountain ridge vibes there, and maybe a little bit of that hill in the background, something like that. And then of course the yarn that's going to come whoosh and kind of swirly twirly. I'm going to represent it like this in my image. Maybe it comes down there. Get that crescent moon, and then maybe some lines like this for stars. Okay, so there's one landscape. I've got 3 more to go. Well, I probably would do a little more to that one too, but anyway, so for next class, what I'm trying to get at is these are the things that we should have completed before next class. Your continuous line drawing of whatever you decide to do, as well as your 4 landscapes. Once again, kind of finding that balance between simple enough that it could be a yarn painting, but intricate enough that it's going to challenge you and look really cool once it's done. All right, so get those done for next class. I think it's not a bad idea to photograph them, put them into your art folder. If you want to throw them in your art journal too, not a bad idea, just because you never know, right? Like, these pieces of paper, they go missing, they get thrown away, they get stepped on and ruined. So not a bad idea to just take a picture so you've got a backup. I'm here for all the backup stuff. Anyway, have fun doing this. Can't wait to see how they turn out.